Can somebody please check your Facebook in just a minute? And then we will go back to this. We're good? All right. Good morning, folks. Thank you so much for bearing with me. My Facebook would not load in. If you are here live with any of you, just make sure your sound is off. I know I've got people on chat here saying they can probably hear me. Hopefully everybody can hear me now online. Yes? Everybody good? Lucinda? Good morning. Good morning, Unity Group. I'm going to not be able to follow my chat, so I'm going to close that bar. If anyone here is able to open and follow the chat on the Zoom, and let me know if there are questions, that would be great. But let me get started this morning. I hope everybody had a great weekend. For those that don't know, I'm Melissa Schwartz. I'm the managing broker of the Paradise Valley Realty One Group office. And this morning, we're going to try to stick to a tight time schedule. So if we have to end short, I apologize, but we're going to jump over in the office so we can watch on our larger screen the attorney from Realty One Group. If you're not aware of that Zoom taking place, hopefully you will. I wonder if I can't stay on with this, but I can't do it to Facebook. So hopefully you guys all have your codes to be able to join us on that. If not, I might be able to give it to you as we get ready to move over at 11 o'clock. See what screen I can go to. Let's see if I share that screen. We should be able to move this down. All right. So this morning, we are going to talk about multiple offers. I know that seems funny in this market, but how many of you have been dealing with multiple offers in the past 2 months? Yeah, I see some hands up. So I just dealt with a listing and am dealing with multiple offers. And I thought, I know this is odd, but a lot of the questions I've actually had coming in the last 2 weeks have had to deal with multiple offers and wholesalers, right? So that's what we're talking about here, because if you have a property, if you're taking a listing that is, let's say, not in the greatest condition, right? Or one that is ripe for the fix and flip market, it is going to be the focus of attention from many of those wholesalers that are out there. And so that's why I wanted to bring up this conversation today, because I do think it makes a difference. And when we are looking at setting those expectations, if you're the listing agent, setting those expectations on what the seller can reasonably end up with, right? Because of certain limitations with the property. About 6 months ago, I had a property, shall we say it had a lot of stuff in the property, right? There were, in fact, I don't know that I've ever been in a property where I had to climb over clothing literally to walk through the home. And as I took the listing, I couldn't even finish filling out the seller could have told me this, but she was not very cooperative. But as I was just trying to, get some of the documentation ready, I had been through the home and I honestly have no idea what the countertops were because I could not see them. Okay. So that type of property is going to be something that investors, specifically this whole group of wholesalers, is going to come after, and they're going to come after it in droves. And what I always love is the buyer's agent that says, well, this is the price. This is the price that we feel your home is worth. Now, that price could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 difference from perhaps where you listed it. And I appreciate their sincerity, working for their client, but you work for the seller in this scenario, okay? So property condition and having realistic expectation conversations with your seller about who is that potential buyer. How many of you in this room, and I know we've got people online, I can't see yours, but how many people in this room have dealt with these wholesale buyers? 1, 2, 3. Yep. So about half of you have. So if you have not had the opportunity to work with a wholesale buyer, it is a different brand. And we're going to go through some of the stuff that I've seen on some of these offers, either that agents have forwarded to me that they've had trouble, or one of these that recently I've dealt with. So part of setting your expectations with a seller is talking about what is the timeline. How many of you know that as a listing agent, you can take your ER, your exclusive right, or your EA, exclusive agency, months before you ever plan on going on the market? How many of you know that? A couple of you do, a couple don't, right? So if you know that this is a property ripe for investors, please, when you first go see that client, or customer, whoever they are at that point, get a contract. Doesn't mean you're going on the market next week. But once you have become the listing agent, you are now the listing agent. So when they get that knock on the door, they say, great, call my listing agent. And guess what happens if you haven't taken that listing? Any guesses?
Yeah.
You get the call that, oh, I sold that yesterday. Thanks so much for your help for the last 5 weeks or 6 months or whatever you've been working them through. So get the ER if you're going to spend time and effort. Yes, Lee.
On the ER, you need to write in on the blank lines at the end when it will be
So,
active.
all right, Leaf has a very good point there. He says you have to write when it will be active. I would say you could leave that a little more generic, but you do have to put something about the start date. So this is what confuses our agents, right? If we take the listing on November 1st, but we're not going to list until January, well, I can't have it show that I've been on the market for 2.5 months. There's an easy fix for that, folks. It's very easy. You write on the back, owner instructs broker to set or set the start date to the date that you go live in the MLS, so that that date automatically changes to address your concern, but also to address how you make sure you don't list it and make it look like you've been on the market for, I don't know, 90 days. You don't want to do that. You want to go on the market for 0 days. So you can do that. And obviously, if you're going to do adjustments to that ER, does anybody know what document you do if you have not been listed on the MLS yet? This is an interactive group today. I've stumped everybody already. I love it. It's called the listing contract addendum. So the listing contract addendum, and the reason this is important is the listing contract addendum is between the owner and the broker. So it's between Realty One Group and the owner. So that's important because a regular addendum to the purchase contract is between the buyer and the seller. So the listing contract addendum addresses any changes you're making to your ER or EA agreement. Now, can you use a sold change form? Of course you can, but the sold change form, the very first line says, what's the MLS number? It's already assuming you have gone into the MLS and have moved forward. So the listing contract addendum is the one you would use, and you can use it even when you've already gone in the MLS, especially if you're making specific larger changes. That would be the document you use. Yeah.
If you put it in your contract,
In the ER, if you put,
you don't need it.
well, so the question was, if you put something in the listing, in the ER itself, you don't need the listing contract addendum. But if you're changing something that you needed to modify, let's say you put TBD on your price. Well, TBD on your price doesn't work to go into the MLS, and it doesn't work for your ER. You actually do need a price. So you would do a listing contract addendum, and you would probably cover price and list date. Especially if you're waiting 6 months, you may not know when you're going on. So you could use that listing contract addendum to set that. So let's go back to some of these notes here. Cleanup. What needs to be cleaned up before you sell? Leaf, I know you've done some of these things where you've had dumpsters that the expectation are the buyer is bringing the dumpster, not the seller, right?
Right.
Sometimes,
Right.
right? Okay. Sometimes you need to try to get the seller to get that dumpster there. Any guesses on what the difference on price is between having everything thrown away and leaving all that stuff behind?
A lot.
Tens of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars potentially, right? And we've got one agent that's got a listing that there are no utilities on, right? So here you have a buyer taking the risk of what is the issue with this house. There are no utilities on, can't turn the utilities on. I mean, you're talking the risk factor goes on to the buyer, and those dollars start dropping and dropping and dropping. So if you're being asked as a listing agent to get the highest price possible, again, that's when you're talking to your client about cleanup. What are the challenges, right? So if a buyer's looking at this, how many dollars is the seller losing? And of course, they're looking to you to get the highest dollar amount. All you can do is explain this stuff. Put it in writing if you feel uncomfortable, and make sure that you're reiterating. I know we talked about this, but I still highly recommend that you get a dumpster, get somebody to junk this stuff out before we list it for you to get the highest and best value. Protect yourself, okay? By putting that in writing to them so they understand. Now, again, I sold a property 6 months ago. Seller absolutely was adamant they were not going to do this. They would do it when they moved, but they wanted to sell the home while it still had all this junk in there. You can't stop that, folks, right? But then the conversation has to be, you understand that the potential buyers are going to be investors that may try to flip this property. Okay. And explain to them what that means. That means they're going to make $10, $20, or $30,000 on you when somebody else buys it from them prior to our closing. Mm-hmm. Make sure they understand that. Again, setting those expectations, right? Now, coming soon or not on the market, right? Do you keep this as what's called a pocket listing? And by the way, pocket listings can be advertised to Realty One Group agents all throughout the state, okay? We're a part of Realty One Group, so you can let other Realty One Group agents know about it. We do have some agents that do work with some investors, so that's fine. Some of our agents have buyers that work with them on those types of purchases. But if you're not going out to the general market, are you going to get the highest offer for your clients? Okay. And again, 6 months ago, this seller said, I don't want my neighbors through my house. I don't want it on the MLS. I don't want people in here. Basically, she was embarrassed. I got that, right? It's like, okay, you understand we're really limiting. I said, can I put it coming soon and not have it open to the public? I will do a private open house. Sounds silly, right? But the minute you go coming soon, your phone starts to ring. Okay. You're going to start to get offers from these investors sight unseen immediately. Within an hour, you will have offers in your inbox. May not be great offers, but you will have offers in your inbox. Okay. So do you go coming soon and then do something where you at least get some of these people in? Because if they don't see it first, those offers start here, and then the minute they see it, they drop the price on you. And that's the game, right? You need to understand the game these investors play. And what they really love is on the coming soon for your price to be up here, because then they can offer down here. And guess what? That gives them all this room to try and get other buyers to buy it from them in between that price. In fact, one of the offers I got 6 months ago said that the broker will change the list price to the highest list price that it has been while it was active and leave it there until it closes. So if you started at, say, $500,000 and you're now at 430, they demanded that the broker change it back to $500,000 and leave it at that. Why?
It's that margin.
They can market to the
Yeah.
margin, right? And your phone's so it's one of those things that be very careful how you're managing that, right? It's again working to make sure you're giving visibility, but also not giving that huge margin. And that's really hard to get sellers to understand. And what they really don't understand, and quite honestly, I can't figure this one out. Why are these wholesale buyers not buying from us on the MLS? Why are they not sending us these offers? That's what doesn't make sense to me. I don't have an answer to that. If anybody does, please let me know.
Yeah,
But-
they all say that. They say, I'm not interested in stuff on the MLS. They all say that.
I don't know why. They're paying $10,000 more than somebody else.
You have anything that, yeah. Any distressed properties?
Yeah, and
I've got tons of them.
yeah. Well, I got into that with somebody over the weekend and it was very funny because they're like, but I wanted you to send it to me before you listed it. I said, no, I work for the seller. Thank you.
Exactly.
They're like, yeah, but I could make a great deal. Well, for you, you can, but not for my client.
Right.
Okay. All right. So pre-listing strategy, work with your sellers to figure out what that strategy is going to be. Again, are you going to go coming soon? Are you going to have a quiet open house where you're in the coming soon status, field those calls, call those agents back and say, hey, I'm going to be there between this time and this time. Please come see me, right? So you get a chance to walk through the property. You can do that. Don't put your open house signs out. Just go to the property and meet them there. And that way they know they can see it. Tracking offers and then sharing offers using Google. Okay, so let me show you. I'm going to show you this form. This is really hard to see here. I'm going to just shift over here. Please tell me online if somebody will just open your mic. Can you see this spreadsheet? Yes, thank you. I can see it now. All right. So folks, this is a mock-up. This is 123 East Main Street. Some of this information may be valid from a recent thing, but all of the prices have changed. I don't know if you can see that. So all of the prices have changed. The only thing that is not changed here, I did leave the title information here. But all of the other numbers, things like that have changed. I threw different notes in here to show you how to track this. I hope, folks, if you are not familiar with Excel, at least you are familiar with Google Sheets. When you are dealing with multiple offers, I think I must have, I don't know, 12, 15 down here in this scenario. And again, I threw a whole bunch of different stuff in here. But the point is that when you start getting offers, and I usually do this sequentially, I will start, and this is not sequential, this is showing that I adjusted it to show the net. But I usually will start, I'm going to go over to the side here, the time that the offer arrived and the response time that was required for you to respond to this offer. So let me go back to the beginning here. We'll just look at this. And again, these prices, folks, and these buyers, these are not correct. I just threw random numbers in here. So these are not what my offer was that I had this weekend. I did copy the spreadsheet, but I changed all the info. Okay. This offer net, this is a calculation here. If you can see this, this is the offer price minus concessions and minus home warranty. I did change these. Normally, I do not have inspection period or wholesale / nominee noted there. But in this particular scenario, I had to change that. In the past, let's see, this used to say appraisal waivers and escalation clauses. So, you know, you modify it for the time. So now we're dealing with wholesalers. You need to know what their inspection period time is. And all of these are wholesales really, but if they specifically had either nominee or they had the wholesale language, most of them I made those notes, but they're all wholesalers. Whether or not they resell it before we close is not necessarily to the point. But so you start by typing in your offer price here. okay? And then earnest money. In this case, these are all cash. There's no loans. The down payment is the subtraction of those, but I didn't calculate it. I just took that off the first page. What's important is how long is that inspection period? Now, I'm going to jump down here. Anybody know why that might be an issue? This one has 0 days and the Binzer was included. Why is that not ideal for your seller? Hold on, we're gonna put you on camera. Go ahead.
And we've discussed this before. It was always suggested to at least give them 1 day
Why?
because it covers the seller's behind.
It
It's
covers the
liability.
seller's liability
Give
because
them the opportunity, and now they're not relying 100% on your spuds or
Well,
other disclosures.
and they'd waived all of that anyway, right? But here's the problem. What does contract law in the state of Arizona offer a buyer? Does anybody know what I'm referencing? Do we have the attorney in the room want to comment? You know about contract law? Nope. Okay, so under contract law in the state of Arizona, a buyer has 6 years to file a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if the buyer has waived all of those things, they technically have the ability to come back after you. Now, you could argue that they waived them, but much cleaner if you give them the 1 day of the inspection, give them the seller property disclosures, because then you've eliminated that ability for them to come after, because they did have their inspection period and they had a right to research any of that information. So again, the 0 days not ideal here, but let's just keep going along here. Concessions. Why? Anybody guess why I have a negative concession here? Leaf, any guesses? You can't see that. I'm sorry. Why would I have a negative, which is a positive to your seller, right? It's not a cost, it's a benefit to the seller here. It's not a concession that they're asking from the seller. It's something the buyer is giving to the seller. Any guesses what a buyer could be giving a seller outside the purchase price?
An escalation clause? No.
Nope. What can a buyer pick up on behalf of a seller when they're trying to do a deal like this? Seller's closing costs. That's correct. They can pick up the seller's side of title and escrow, right? And it will almost always have a little phrase that says the buyer will cover all seller closing costs except commissions, liens, existing liens, HOA debts, those things. So basically it's title and escrow fees for the seller side. So those two offers actually both were offering that same thing. I threw the number in because I didn't know what it would be. So it's about correct. I did run that, but it's not exact, but it's about $2,000. So when I'm explaining this to the seller, am I saying that $2,000 is an exact dollar amount, or am I saying that's an estimate? That is an estimate of what your seller closing costs might be for your title and escrow fees. Now, really important, all of these, the home warranty, none of these guys want a home warranty, but close of escrow date, right? So here you have a bunch of different close of escrow dates. Why do you think I put a yellow on this one? So this one says COE date 12/4. So figure these were offers received 11/3, 11/4. The other offers are wanting a 11/13, 11/14, 11/17, 11/14. So the two there up top that I highlighted are 11/29 and 12/4.
Yeah, they want to lock it up
30
in
days.
a time shot.
Lock that's so if folks did not hear that, the buyers want to lock the deal up and shop it to wholesalers. They want that month to shop it, right? You don't want to give them that month. You want it turned and closed quickly. Now, the challenge with that is if you have an HOA, can you get the documents back from the HOA in time to close it quickly, right? For those that don't know, Friday's a holiday. It's Veterans Day, right? And then later this month, we have Thanksgiving. So you can figure half of Wednesday, all of Thursday, and all of Friday, forget it. Trying to get anything done those 2.5 days is not so great. So again, some challenges as you head into November. It's one of the months that we have a lot of days actually. So I did leave these just from this other one. So you can see title companies all over the place, right? Some of them, and I put what locations, right? Chandler, Gilbert, Litchfield Park. And I had one that has Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Says Pennsylvania. I'm like, okay, they're not even located in our state, but those are their preferred title companies. All right. Now I hid the agent and I'm not going to go there because you can actually see them. I did just cover over those, but I do put the agent, the company information, the phone, and the email. Why do I put this on the spreadsheet? Why would I put that type of detail on this spreadsheet?
Easier to find.
It's easier to find. If you've got 12 offers or 15 offers, how easy is it to go back to find each one of those to go, wait, who was that? How, and sometimes they don't even put in their email their company name. So you're trying to go back to find the email. If you don't know it was John with HomeSmart, trying to find which one belongs to this particular thing. So I actually put agent, the company, the phone, and the email. Because when I start having to reply to people, I can just go to this document and I can click copy and paste and send off my emails. It's much faster to have this on this spreadsheet. Now, I do have two things here, notes and other. Usually I try to keep the notes for very specific line items in the contract that either were done incorrectly or need to be addressed. Okay, so earnest money, they have a 3-day wire. They are missing their lead-based paint disclosure, or they put in, or they sent the wrong HOA, meaning they sent it before they took the one off the MLS. They just sent me a blank one, right? Well, if the seller didn't fill out page 1, how are they filling out page 3, right? So this is telling me contractually things that if I'm countering this one, and by the way, this goes all the way down. I'm putting this on every single one of these that's coming in, right? Because as I'm going through the offers, I'm putting these here so that the seller knows what offers they're getting, right? Because they need to look at these. Now, earlier on that slide before, I said, how do you share? Are you going to email every single file, forward every file over to your client? Are you have to deliver those offers, right? Your seller has to physically receive every offer you get. Please, please, please do not use this spreadsheet as a replacement for that delivery, okay? Because your obligation is to deliver that. Because I can tell you, if down the road there's a lawsuit and you did not deliver that, and oh, you know, it was my friend Jerry that was with, you know, Realty One Group that I decided would get pushed to the top, and I didn't bother to show them that there was another offer that actually was a better offer for them. Who is going to be responsible for that? You are, right? You have to deliver this. Now, obviously, it's really nice going back over here where you can see if you push in this offer price and it calculates this out, it is much easier for them to see where the offer net is on this left-hand side. And yes, I resorted this so you can see the offer net in highest to lowest offer price. And by the way, and again, these are just theoretical, but just to give you an idea of the span, this would not be far off, right? So offers down, well, actually there was I actually put verbals in here, not verbals, I put text messages and emails that they sent me notices that said, you know, they would write up an unrepresented, or here was one email, no contract 230, email offer, email only if interested, call for a full offer. I had one guy on a text message. I'll show that to you in a little bit. I actually copied that out, so we'll see it. But does anybody have any questions on this spreadsheet? And I have a blank one I can share with anybody if you want it. But yeah.
Could add another column perhaps that says when you sent it to the seller. And the date.
Hmm.
Was it sent? Yes.
On the end, when sent out, that is true.
Another summary for yourself.
Yeah, and the thing, you would have that in your assigning programs, but yes,
Yes.
you could absolutely add that for later. I forgot to go back over here. Usually I have notes which are very contractual. The other are usually other things that may be kind of odd, like this one, everything is all business days. That is a red alert to me, because if I'm doing my normal calculations, I'm counting every day. All of a sudden, I went back as I'm talking to the seller and I see my note and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're not going to deposit earnest money till 3 days after they get this. Well, next week we've got a holiday. If you don't sign this till Tuesday, their earnest money isn't going to be required until the following week.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to be able to count that, right? The contract said they put fridge. There's no fridge in the property, right? Well, like what? So different notes, again, try to keep those separate. You could probably do all one, but it gets really bogged down if you've got a lot of things like this one, like missing the attachments, line 36 through 38 are all those additional addendums, right? Those addendums are supposed to be there. So different things like that. Any other questions here on this spreadsheet? Questions? Nope. Okay. I'm going to go back to this because I know we got to watch our time here. I'm just going to share some things. So here are some of those text messages or emails I got. Now this is the property. These are I removed other things other than this was a property that I had. Do you work with wholesalers? If so, let me know. I'd love to make an offer, right? Hey, I'm sending this. We've reviewed all of our numbers and ready to offer 215 all cash quick closing, right? I'm not into throwing low numbers. So my numbers are set according to the work needed and the interest rate as far as a return on investment. Love these emails, folks, right? By the way, that property is listed at 315, just so you know. So, but their 215 was absolutely the right offer for them. For them. It's not, might not be for the seller. All right. Here was a cover letter, which I'm bringing to you actually because I will say that this is really nice when agents actually do this. Would have liked a little more on this, but that bullet point section, how nice is it to get a cover page that actually details that? I would have added what the offer price was, but that's fine. But they give their basics of what their buyer's deal is, like the things that are automatically included. So really well written. So again, I was telling you that I added some text messages. In the listing contract, we did check the box on no verbal offers. And the reason for that, my client is out of state. The challenges with trying to take verbal offers, make sure you notate those correctly and then convey them when you're juggling this many offers. I do not recommend it. Let them send you an email. Let them send you what's it called? A letter of intent, LOI. Here I have a text message. You know, again, here's this. We're going to offer, you know, our CMA report and wanted to reach out about our offer of 220, considering we could pay all closing costs, right? And then have an additional 10%, right? Okay, so I said, well, I think your CMA is a little off, right? Well, then he goes on to tell me they got an ARV of 350 minus and went through this, you know, where the future value would be at 350 and subtracting all of this stuff out. And then goes on to ask me to represent him. Like, why am I representing you? You obviously already have somebody working for you. Like, why would I represent them? So I said, I represent the seller. If you want to submit an offer, go ahead. Then he asked me for a CMA. And I said, well, maybe I'll send it on Sunday. And I ended up sending him a note and said, you know, you're just really way far off on the price, and the sellers responded to some other offers. But those are just some of the things that if you're in the middle of this type of scenario. Now, if you represent an investor, let's flip this around. try to make your offer as clean as possible. Try and get the information there. I understand you have to make the offer that your buyer wants to make. If they want the 220 offer, submit the 220 offer. Don't turn your back on your buyer, and you can't say, oh, my buyer's full of it. I get that. Do what these guys are doing. I appreciate their protecting their buyer and they're submitting their buyer offer. You could also ask if we have an offer of 215 or 220, are we even in the running? Are we even on the same dance floor? Because most likely you may not be. So at least get that information. All right. So let's look at some additional. This is the harder one, right? So you get these offers, additional contract terms and conditions. Oh my gosh. There can be all sorts of things on here. Please, please, please read these sections carefully. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. This is actually saying that they are a wholesaler. That's fine. That's good. You want to see that. Here's another one. This,
On the first contract now, those 2 boxes, there's 2. They've added.
but they are actually spelling it out as well. One of the things I saw a lot of is that the only recourse for a seller is the earnest money. That the seller waives any right for specific performance on a buyer in these scenarios. So watch for that language. Again, setting expectations. If that's there, you need to explain that to your seller if they're pursuing this offer, that they understand if for some reason that buyer bails at the last minute, the only recourse you have is for the earnest money. Okay? Yes.
I've been doing wholesaling for a little while, guys, and I'm licensed, and of course, you have several people doing different things. That's the crazy thing about wholesale, like the Wild Wild West, right? You got 17-year-old moving like crazy amount of deals, and then you have somebody that's experienced that literally does work with agents. One of the things that I would recommend if you get a wholesale offer, the emails and the contracts express seriousness, and a lot of us do have well backed up offers, right? Obviously, the property and the numbers have to make sense from an investment standpoint, but also to protect your client as a seller, you always, you're gonna take a wholesale offer. Always ask for a non-refundable earnest money. It could be anything from $3,000 to $5,000 non-refundable earnest money. If I'm gonna put an offer in your property and I'm willing to put $3,000 non-refundable earnest money, even if I do end up assigning that contract, because the contract is assignable, if I put the right wording in there, even if I assign the contract to someone else, your client our deal is still protected, right? Now, if I happen to back down because of any reason, your client does get the $3,000 all by time.
Right.
Or 5.
Well, yeah, whatever the amount might be. So that's really important. I don't know if online you guys all heard that, but there are experienced agents out there working with wholesalers. And then there are some fly-by-night folks. So let's see if we can get over to this. So you'll see again, this reserves the right, but I want to get to another section here as we start to look at proof of funds. So unfortunately, with things like Canva and Photoshop, and this is actually one that I just got, I need to actually follow up on something like this. I did block out the names here other than the bank's information. I blocked out the title. Why might this be of concern? Does anybody have any guesses why this kind of red flag to me? Does anybody know? Does anybody know Bank of America, Merrill Lynch? Does anybody know the name that it's actually being used, and the logo is not what is on this page? It's you can't see this far. So it says Bank of America has the little like flag that B of A uses, and then it says Merrill Lynch. If you go online since 2009, it should be Merrill with the bull, I guess, Bank of America, and it's a totally different logo. I did, and I'm not saying this is invalid or not. I did Google. LinkedIn, by the way, is your friend on any of these financial things, because gosh, if they're working for Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, don't you think I'd be able to find the vice president of service on LinkedIn? So I looked up this person's name and they don't work for Bank of America. So I don't know if this is valid or not. I don't know if it's something they've used over a while, but just something to consider. So here's another one. Here's Bank of America. Now, I don't particularly like screenshots, but the important thing on here, and I am so sorry, I don't know whether you guys can even see this. So this actually says the company name, like I blanked over whatever it was, investment group, right? So you actually have the name. That name up there should be the buyer's name. This should not be somebody else's name, right? And the reality is if you can look at the very bottom of this, well, maybe this next one will show it to you, right? But here's one from Chase, right? So here's one, again, a screenshot, but on the bottom, you can actually see that there was it was pulled from a secure website of chase.com and has that this was actually printed from the website, okay? Again, property name or the buyer's name is actually there, which is what you want to see. The account number, except the last four, usually I block them out for this purpose, right? So now I'm going to be running out of time here, but representation matters. Who do you work for? Are you working for the seller, right? So if you are, make sure you know what your client wants, what is important to them. And as you're proceeding and reviewing these offers, remember to ask, what is most important to you? Is time important? Are dollars important? Are the buyer takes away all the junk that's left, right? What is important to your client? All right, I tried to race through that. I did pretty good. Any questions? Because we are going to jump over to the Zoom call here in just a few minutes, but we've got about 5 minutes before I have to deal with that. Yes, sir.
On the updated additional clause addendum,
Yes,
have a section on wholesale disclosure,
it does.
right?
It
And that's
does.
what they should be using rather than, or is it?
I would double check the language difference between what these people are putting in the back. The important part is that your client, if you represent the seller, that your client understands that it can be resold before you actually close at your close of escrow date. And by the way, that one I dealt with 6 months ago was resold prior to our closing. The person made 20 grand off my seller. I immediately told the seller what was happening, and there is nothing they can do. They cannot back out at that point, or they could be sued for specific performance. So they have to ride the train. And that's why it's so important that you explain that early on, because if it happens, the last thing you need to be hearing is, well, I don't understand. You didn't tell me this could happen. So while this may be real in your life, it be totally unknown for these sellers. They are not going to understand it. So you have to require it.
Reminder.
Yes, thank you. I got my reminder that I gotta get offline here so we can listen to our attorney. Other questions though? We got about 2 more minutes before I have to jump over to make sure I got it. Yep.
So if you are covered, you don't have to present an offer that is verbal. You're covered on that because you put it in there.
If you put it in your listing that you are not going to, let me stop sharing here. If you put it in your listing that you are not receiving verbal offers, you simply need to tell people when they call you, my seller has asked for everything to be written. If you are not prepared to write an AAR contract, please send me an email or send me a text message or something so I can use that to communicate. And again, I didn't show this to you, but Google, so the other option, folks, instead of trying to email all these documents, create a Google folder that says offers. Then underneath that, you can put folder after folder for each of the buyers and put all of the contract docs into those folders. share the main offer folder with your client, they can access everything without it having been dumped through their email and them having trouble opening all those documents. They're all in the Google Drive. They can go in and retrieve those and look through them. Okay. And again, you must deliver them. So I would send the link of the share when you're going to share it, save that you have sent to, Mr. Smith. By the way, I sent over all of those offers we're going to sit down and talk about in an hour. I sent them all over to you, and we'll be going over the spreadsheet to discuss the various offers. But they're there, please take a look at them so you can, have a chance to review those in person, and that you send them the proof of funds. They need to see what's being sent, right? Questions? Everybody's here for the attorney. I'm being upstaged. That's okay.
Are you having the seller then mark a rejection box on page 10 for each one?
I am not, and I should be. Very, very important point. When you are rejecting offers, you should be sending them page 10 with the rejected offer and sending it back. And those rejected offers need to be sent into SkySlope and stored in SkySlope. There is an email you can send them to in SkySlope. So I'll have to ask Louise how to do that. I never remembered that one. So other questions? All right, folks, I'm going to end this. Anybody that wanted a copy of that, just send me an email so I can send it back to you. So I will do that. I'm going to end this Zoom so we go off of our Facebook. Anybody online, you will need to get to the Zoom presentation. It was in my email yesterday, so you should have the link in there. Thank you much. We'll see you soon. Bye.